Wall Street did step up, and we have to give them a lot of credit. They gave over $1 billion, put them in the pocket. They bought shares, and Moderna said, go, go, go. Let's go build this vaccine.
Where did the Gates Foundation put their money then?
Oh, they made other kind of bets, and they did good work. I don't want to dismiss the work
didn't go
that they
for
did.
this.
Yeah, they had resources tied up elsewhere.
So describe for everyone, if I want the flu vaccine, they shoot the flu into you, and they hope they got the right flu, right? But mRNA is different, and this could be very important for someone listening right now who's very queasy about getting a shot because they don't know what they're shooting into their system. What should they know?
That's exactly right. So it's important to know that traditionally, not these vaccines, but traditionally vaccine shots included, as you say, either a killed version of the virus itself, a watered down version of it, attenuated it's called. So you have some version of the vaccine, and it's true of all traditional vaccines, polio, etc. And historically, there was some percentage of people who unfortunately got the disease that they were trying to protect. And the whole idea of vaccines is to educate, to teach the immune system. And so historically, you say, all right, I'm going to put in the vaccine a piece of the virus, and the immune system is going to have an experience, it's going to have an education, and it's going to know when it sees it for the real time, we know how to fight it off. With these vaccines, they're very different. So mRNA basically is a message. It's called, the M is for a messenger. And we all have mRNA in us. It's how our proteins that we depend on are created. Basically, the DNA doesn't go into the cell, it goes DNA to mRNA to creates protein. That's sort of the basics of biology. And people, scientists, entrepreneurs, venture capitalists always said, well, okay, if mRNA is so important and mRNA can create, naturally creates proteins in the body, what if we could create these mRNAs, these molecules in the lab? And it was always like this holy grail. Well, yeah, of course, if we could figure it out, we could make the body into its own manufacturer, its own vaccine or even drug manufacturer in our own body. So it was always like the hope. And the skeptics always said, nah, there's no way you can get mRNA all the way into the cell because it's chopped up so quickly. That's the fascinating thing about mRNA. Some people are worried that it's going to affect their DNA and it's going to be in our... No, it gets chopped up almost instantly, and that's why people never wanted to work with mRNA. So it took years and years of entrepreneurship and innovation and stubbornness on the part of researchers that I write about in my book to finally figure out a way to create mRNA in the lab. It's called recombinant mRNA, put it in a vaccine and get it all the way into our body. And then it does get chopped up really quickly by the enzymes, but it lasts long enough to teach our body to create a protein. In this case, it's the spike protein. Create a protein that teaches the body's immune system, next time I see that spike protein, I'm going to go fight it off.
So you have Moderna and Pfizer working with mRNA. What's Johnson & Johnson doing?
So Johnson & Johnson and this group in England, Oxford University, along with AstraZeneca, they use a virus. And they say, okay, we're going to put the gene for, this case, the spike protein, onto a virus, put it in a vaccine, and that virus is going to carry this genetic information, these genetic instructions, into the body's cell. And you say to yourself, well, wait, why do I want to put a virus into my body? And the answer is this virus is not harmful. They've taken out the ingredients such that it doesn't spread. It just gets, and viruses are really good at getting into the cells and then it disappears. So that's their approach. It's effective. It's not quite as effective as mRNA, but it's effective. And I would take the J&J in a heartbeat. So that's another approach I write about in my book. And it's another one that took years and years to get right.
All right, we come back with the moment where it reaches market. When did they know it was going to be successful? And what was the feeling around the country, and what is it like now? If anyone could make heads or tails of it or offer a great hypothesis, it's Greg Zuckerman. His book is now out as of today. It's called, it's right here, Greg Zuckerman, A Shot to Save the World, the inside story of the life or death race for a COVID-19 vaccine. Don't move.
It's Brian Kilmeade.
Her life was in danger.
How one mystery became a mass grave.
We found another set of remains, a third set of remains, and a fourth set of remains.
Is there a serial killer on the loose?
The beautiful beaches of Long Island, New York have become the latest backdrop in a murder mystery.
Grim Tide, hunting the Long Island serial killer. There's two ways to solve the mystery. Listen to the podcast now on Fox News Podcasts and watch on Fox Nation. Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts commercial-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Dana Perino, Kennedy, Ben Domenech, The Duffys, and many more. Subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day. Featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
This is Fox on Justice. Early voting is now underway for Minnesota residents who will decide the fate of the Minneapolis Police Department. Voters are getting a jump start on a November ballot initiative to replace the city's police force with a new Department of Public Safety. The controversial proposal follows more than a year of tension after the death of George Floyd in May 2020. Early voting in Minnesota began just days after the U.S. Department of Justice last week announced it will limit the use of chokeholds and no-knock warrants. Building trust and confidence between law enforcement and the public we serve is central to our mission at the Justice Department, Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a release highlighting the new policy. Earlier this summer, the DOJ announced more federal agents will wear body cameras for transparency. In Washington, David Spunt, Fox News.
I'm Ashley DeVorkin with a Fox Celebrity Profile with director Alan Taylor of the Many Saints of Newark.
It was both a joy and kind of terrifying because I was so grateful to get back into David Chase's head and his worldview, because I continued to love that landscape. I was so aware of the possibility of screwing things up too, because the fans, still love the show tremendously, and David himself has some very strong feelings. So the bar was high. So it was, I was really grateful to get back in there, but it was one of the hardest jobs I ever did, just to try and make sure that we did service to this piece of American culture.
Were there any lingering questions that were answered for you, if you took yourself out of it and as a viewer and as a fan yourself?
For me, the theme sort of the show, but certainly of this movie, is this, the question of whether our destiny is locked or whether we have any kind of freedom to create who we are. Sopranos men tend to be people who are wrestling with themselves and trying to sort of transcend who they seem to be. We know how Tony sort of turned out, so we go into this thinking, well, did he have to be that way?
Ashley DeVorkin, Fox News.
This is Fox News Talk.
Headline Rewind.
1971, Charles Manson.
It come about by not having a family, by being born without a father. I'm on the wrong side of the law the minute I was born, and I stand strong inside of it.
The district attorney's office and I personally and the Los Angeles Police Department are all exceedingly happy with this verdict. We expected the verdict, but until that clerk reads the verdict, you never know.
I think the public's reaction has been, we did need to know this information. We had a right to know it.
Jim was buried in a simple ceremony with only a few friends present, because those of us who knew him intimately wanted to avoid all the notoriety and circus-like atmosphere that surrounded the deaths of such other rock personalities.
I'd just like to say before we start off with the concert that to thank you all for coming here.
Peace now, peace now, peace.
News as it happened, news as it happens.
This is Fox News Talk.
She thought her life was in danger.
How one mystery became a mass grave.
We found another set of remains, a third set of remains, and a fourth set of remains.
Is there a serial killer on the loose?
The beautiful beaches of Long Island, New York have become the latest backdrop in a murder mystery.
Grim Tide, hunting the Long Island serial killer. There's two ways to solve the mystery. Listen to the podcast now on Fox News Podcasts and watch on Fox Nation. Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts commercial-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Dana Perino, Kennedy, Ben Domenech, The Duffys, and many more. Subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day. Featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
WBEZ is supported by YodelPop, a women-owned marketing firm partnering with nonprofits and associations to increase their reach, revenue, and visibility. Committed to supporting the vision of clients who work to benefit society. More at yodelpop.com.
As an Asian American, I didn't see it as that obvious.
She wanted to explore this question with kids from different backgrounds. Her theory was that Asian American kids and white American kids might think differently about choice. Before comparing the two groups, she wanted to establish a baseline to confirm that for the white kids, choice indeed had a positive effect. This baseline experiment turned out to be pretty interesting on its own. Here's how it worked. She brought a bunch of 3-year-olds, one by one, into a room full of toys. Half of them were allowed to choose any toy, and they could switch as they pleased. The other half would be given just one toy with no option to switch.
I started by looking at white American kids because I had to first, show that I'm capable of actually replicating what prior scientists would say.
What prior scientists would say, and had been saying for decades, is that choice is motivating. That having choice, or even the illusion of choice, is associated with increased satisfaction and feeling more control over your life. Therefore, the kids who could choose their toy should be happier for having the options and more likely to play longer. These ideas about choice were prominent not just in psychology, they were baked into the foundation of economic thinking at the time. That more choice is almost always better than less choice. But when Iyengar started her study and brought in the kids who could choose from an entire room full of toys,
the white kids would come in and they would look at all these toys and stare outside the window.
Attempting to catch up with the problems that have been created over a decade of underfunding. We've seen that the average increase in the NHS budget year on year throughout its history, regardless of who's in government, is about 3.6%.
Find out how a piece of plastic changed the world forever in a new series.
Hey Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to. But Riz, Emmett Golden
in this country will step up and take risk that you can't get anywhere else. You could not do this in Europe. There's no money for these kinds of companies with no earnings, with only a hope of developing something down the road, years in advance. And frankly, there's American venture capital, the American investors, American stock market, and these companies, and these executives all told me, Greg, we could not have done this without America, and we could not have done this without the help of these investors and the scientists from America.
Are you surprised we quickly got about 50, 60% up? We seem to be stuck around 70% of the country getting 2 shots and getting ready to go. Are you surprised at some skepticism? And what would you say to skeptics listening right now?
So I would say, and I try to emphasize this.
We're not doctors, but you might as well be after this book you just wrote.
Yeah, I'm no doctor whatsoever, but I talk to scientists, and I talk to people that are not political. I really try to emphasize people that are just experienced. And the time, the years that went into these vaccines needs to be appreciated, and the remarkable effectiveness also needs to be appreciated.
A shot to save the world. Greg Zuckerman has done it again. Pick it up. It's real-time history. Good job, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Fox News Radio. On air, online, on demand. The latest news, your favorite talk show hosts, the hottest podcasts, all in one place. America is listening to Fox News. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, it's Will Kane, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Join me as I share my thoughts on a wide range of topics, from sports and pop culture to politics and business. With the help of newsmakers and personalities, I will provide you my free, unfiltered, uncancelable opinion on the hottest topics in America.
The Will Kane Podcast. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. America is listening to Fox News.
News. I'm Kathleen Maloney. President Biden at the G20 summit in Rome, calling on world leaders to take action to reduce supply chain problems. Here at home, his transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, telling Fox News Sunday,
if we really want to see all of these disruptions end, we got to end the pandemic. That's what getting everybody vaccinated is all about.
Meanwhile, concerns about inflation persist as prices continue to rise for everyday goods and services, including gas and heating oil. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm says the administration is addressing that.
The president is really focused on making sure that people are not hurt at the pump, which is why the American Rescue Plan, for example, had a significant increase in low-income heating and protections for home.
Granholm on NBC's Meet the Press. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Brett Larson, inviting you to download and listen to the new daily Fox on Tech podcast. There's part of a colorful late 90s iMac on Mars. It's an idea that seems a lot like Kickstarter, called Build It. This isn't the first time we've heard about North Korea hackers trying to get a leg up on COVID-19, a range that was used for satellite TV service in the 70s. Get the latest trends in technology, cybersecurity alerts, and gadget news daily. Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A Michigan police officer who went above and beyond the call of duty makes today's Dean's List. Sterling Heights Police Department released a video of a traffic stop. In the video, Officer Kevin Coates makes contact with the driver, who police identify as David. Officer Coates asked David what was going on. Visibly distraught, the man says everything is going wrong. Choking back tears, he told Officer Coates that his wife wasn't well and their adult son is mentally ill. He told the officer he was upset because he bought a TV for his wife to make her happy, but was having problems installing it. Officer Coates let David off with a warning and told him he would stop by his house later that evening to help him set up the TV. Kevin and two other officers arrived at David's house to set up the television. A spokesperson for the police department thanked the officers for doing an outstanding job and said how proud they are of their men and women for the day-to-day moments that don't get publicized. Officer Coates, thank you for spreading kindness. Janice Dean, Fox News.
This is Fox News Talk.
Headline Rewind.
1983. President Ronald Reagan.
How they preach the supremacy of the state, declare its omnipotence over individual man, and predict its eventual domination of all peoples on the earth. They are the focus of evil in the modern world.
To ignore the great majority of the American public who enjoys rock music is just pure stupidity.
We had a good deploy, and the sun shield's closing now. We'll be with you in a minute.
That's great, Sally.
Our immediate challenge to this atrocity is to ensure that we make the skies safer and that we seek just compensation for the families of those who were killed.
Never again should a black or Hispanic or woman or Jew, because of race, religion, or sex, be limited or inhibited as we grow. The aristocracy is not the limit, the sky is the limit. Our time has come.
News as it happened then, news as it happens now.
This is Fox News Talk.
This is House Call for Health. You might think that horror movies could negatively impact your mental health. But there's research that says it could be the opposite, actually having a positive impact. Margaret J. King is the director of the Center for Cultural Studies and Analysis and tells CNET that scary movies are about assurance and that viewers can watch a horror story but at the same time remain safe while controlling the stimulus.
Here's Johnny.
For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
But I know who I'd choose if I could afford it. By the way, Nick Dubois is with you every Saturday and Sunday right here on Talk Radio. There's just time to tell you that Talk Radio is now on your TV. You can download the Talk Radio TV app or go to talkradio.tv for details on how to watch.
Talk Radio is now available to watch 24 hours a day on your mobile and on your smart TV.
Put faces to your favorite voices with Talk Radio TV.
Widescreen opinions, 2020 vision.
Hang out with Hartley Brewer.
Grimace at Graham.
Clark Collins.
And get truly overwhelmed by Whale.
Join your favorite presenters live in the studio throughout the day.
Looking good, sounding even better.
Download the Talk Radio TV app or go to talkradio.tv. talkradio.tv.
Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
The king of talk is back. Listen to me, Jeremy Kyle, weekday afternoons from 4 only on Talk Radio. Get straight talking debate fueled by passion, pride, and the will of the people. This is your show, your chance to say what you think about this country. Don't get mad, get Kyle. Jeremy Kyle at Drive. Tomorrow afternoon from 4 on Talk Radio. Clashes of the Week on Talk Radio.
Administration, when they rescinded the MPP, the protocols remain in Mexico. And now, we have what's called the mother of all caravans busting through the Mexican guard at their border, now making its way up to our southern border. And, we're just one state, but we're going to fight back. And I've talked to Governor Abbott. He's asking me, as a former chairman of Homeland Security, what more can I do? And we got to send every resource we have down there and not let them cross in.
But you're not in the majority. The Democrats don't want to hear it outside Henry Cuellar. So,
right.
So are you just have to sit there and try to stop them, and then you got to incarcerate tens of thousands of illegals?
Well, it is insanity, at the border, and this is why we kept pressing the administration to bring back the migrant protection protocols. Fortunately, the courts did it, and now they're trying to work with Mexico. The problem is Mexico, they didn't want to do this in the first place, Brian. The only reason Mexico agreed to do this under the Trump administration is because President Trump threatened them with 5% tariffs on all goods coming in. Guess what? That got their attention. Guess what? They signed the agreement. Now Biden is perceived as so weak. There's hardly any leverage to make that happen.
So besides asking the state to do things they're not supposed to, in Arizona in particular and Texas, you have to sit there and just wait for an election? I mean, is there any sense that this administration knows they're paying a political price for this to enact, let alone doing the right thing?
Well, I do think elections do have consequences, and this will be a major issue in the 2022 and 2024, elections. You've got so many fentanyls coming in that could kill the American population 7 times over. This is out of control. And, in their recent reconciliation package, they grant amnesty for 10 million illegal migrants. I personally think, Brian, this is part of their long-term strategy, is to get as many illegals in the country that will then become, legalized, and then they'll vote for them, for the Democratic Party. This is not the party that the Democrats used to stand up for the working man, the blue-collar guy. They've completely gone so far to the left, and now it's just completely no law and order. It's interesting. It's down on the border counties. When I talked to Henry Cuellar, or I talked to some of our candidates running, the border counties are going Republican now because they want security. They don't like socialism. They like energy. They don't like this Green New Deal nonsense, and they like law and order down there, and they don't see any of that right now. This is how Texas will win Hispanics and the country. I think long-term will put us in a better position.
So the United Nations spoke out to Texas. They told you to curb the reliance on oil and gas, basically stop drilling. Really? Isn't that nice? What's your reaction to that?
So, thank you, UN, for your great advice. As this president allows Putin to finish his pipeline into Europe, waiving our sanctions that we mandated, he's saying it's in our national interest. I don't understand how that's in our national interest. Shutting down the Keystone pipeline, not allowing permits on energy. Now we have the UN telling us, and now we got to be relying on OPEC again. It's just complete insanity. And now we have to rely on OPEC, and now the president's blaming OPEC for not producing enough energy, while we were doing it in a far more clean manner. My state being one of the top exporters, in the nation. This is another issue that is going to blow back, I think in a big way, where we're favoring foreign governments producing energy over our country. We were becoming energy independent, and that was the national security issue for us, and this administration's turned it upside down.
So in Afghanistan, we're trying to get our people out, and there are hundreds are still there. They told us about 100. That was a flat-out lie, Congressman McCall. I don't know how hands-on you're able to get. Here's what Lindsey Graham told me last night about what he's seeing, what he's finding out about how many people we actually left behind in Afghanistan. Cut 30.
Joe Biden's the most incompetent president in my lifetime. He had a plan that did not work. He turned down sound military advice. They don't know if there's 350 Americans left behind or 700. We do know there are thousands of Afghans who fought along our side that have been left behind.
And now they're considered one of the most impoverished nations on the planet. Their funds are frozen. There's terror activity blowing up Taliban assets, and there's no food. So our people are starving to death. Their people are starving to death. What is our responsibility, Congressman McCall?
Well, we had a responsibility to our American citizens that we left behind. We had a responsibility to the interpreters and those who worked with our special forces. We promised them we would take care of them. And you know what, Brian? I think about 85% of them were left behind now in the hands of the Taliban. They are being hunted down and executed as I speak. And, you know, we're still trying to find American citizens. Yeah, I got pictures of American citizens with their blue passports, and they're saying, please help me get out. You know, me and the Foreign Affairs Committee have been the clearinghouse trying to get these Americans out, left behind enemy lines, and now we're at the mercy of the Taliban. This has been, I agree with Lindsay, one of the most catastrophic foreign policy events I've probably seen in my lifetime. There's no plan for this, and complete takeover by the Taliban. Our intelligence community warned us about this. You know, now you've got the guy that harbored bin Laden, the top president. You got the Haqqani network, top terror, and the FBI most wanted list, and the Taliban 5. You know, welcome to the Afghan cabinet. This is their governance. It's going to be led by terrorists. And you know what? We're talking about the white open border, and you talk about a terror safe haven again. That is a bad prescription.
And now they have a huge cadre going over to Glasgow for this climate summit. That's where their focus is. They said they want to restore American prestige. Did they forget about Afghanistan? Is there anything about restoring our prestige here? This is what the former Secretary of State said, who's, by the way, having trouble getting the current State Department to pay attention and return his calls. Cut 32.
This is worse than just incompetence. This is an absence of caring about Americans and those who have a right to come to the United States of America. We've completely abandoned them. The president won't even talk about these things. We are not serious. We on our State Department Twitter feed today, we're talking about intersectionality and pronouns when we've got Americans behind enemy lines in Afghanistan.
I mean, is there any responsibility that some Democrats feel for this?
Yeah, I think the Democrats, behind the scenes, but the face of the Democratic Party is they abandoned and betrayed those we left behind. And, they want to leave this behind, right? They want to leave this issue behind because it's a loser, and they know it. And so is the border. They don't want to talk about it. Fox News is like the only station talking about that issue. And now, their big holy grail is this climate change deal where, China, the largest polluter in the world, they don't have to comply for maybe 10, 20 years. It just really doesn't make any sense. We can find some key, areas where we can reduce emissions with technology, for instance, but they've put that as the highest priority and everything else in a backseat. And, I tell you, one of the worst things I think they've done, too, is this 85,000, IRS agents that is going to, form a surveillance agency within the IRS of any transaction over $600. My God, that issue alone, that's getting people really worked up.
That's no kidding. And even if they raise it to $1,200, but they're going to get all this money to basically weaponize the IRS. When is that ever good news for the American people? Because they want to squeeze. They think it's just going to be rich people. Rich people just call up their accountant and they'll shield it. But the average person does not have extra money to go get an accountant because they're being audited because he added all this money to the IRS. And most of this stuff is unknowing if they did miss a payment or miss total or something. So I'm wondering, evidently, Joe Manchin pushed back on that today at the Economic Council. So he's pushed back from 3.5 to evidently he's not budging from 1.5. What do you think we're going to be looking at with this spending palooza?
Well, I think that Manchin and Senator are probably the most powerful, senators, obviously right now, and they have brought the numbers down. I really hope the whole thing implodes. I think the progressives are upset with this now. The moderates, they're at war with each other. The Democrats are a divided camp. They can't get the votes. They can't get it this week. They're going to try to get it next week. And, we'll see. But whatever happens, massive spending and tax increases is the last thing a pandemic economy needs right now. We're already in a 13-year high inflationary period, which is a tax on everybody. And the labor force has gone down dramatically, and yet the price of goods at the store are going way up. I'd say I agree with Lindsay. This is I remember the Carter years, energy prices going up, inflation, the embassy taken by terrorists. Very reminiscent of what we're seeing today, but in some ways it's even worse. And I always say, this guy doesn't have the Midas touch; it's the Biden touch, and everything he touches turns to, what.
As lastly, Tillman Fertitta joined me. As you know, is a Texas resident. He's one of the richest people in the country, hardest working. He owns so many restaurants and casinos, and he owns the Houston Rockets. So I asked him, what is it like out there? He's the CEO of Landry's. Here's what he said about what he's dealing with now in restaurants and casinos. Cut 24.
We have 4,000 openings right now.
Wow.
Between the Golden Nugget casinos, all the restaurants, and all the entertainment venues. And people just don't want to work anymore. So I don't know what happened to that part of capitalism. And what's crazy, though, is our high-end businesses are the most successful. So people are getting money from somewhere. But it's just a tough time between the labor shortage and the supply shortage.
Congressman McCall, you're hearing that maybe on a smaller scale, but 4,000 openings.
Yeah, well, it's a workforce crisis. And what happened? We paid them to stay home, and they did. They stayed home, and now they want the same benefits going back. And they're, I was at the Formula One races in Austin last weekend, and they were paying minimum wage, $35 an hour, just to get people to do minimal tasks. And I know Mr. Fertitta. I was at his hotel about a couple weeks ago, and it did look very crowded to me. And the restaurant hotel industry, but they can't find the workers either. I can't. Like I said, everything this guy touches, it just turns into coal for Christmas. We're coming up on the holidays, and are people going to buy it like they used to? We'll see.
I think we're all going to get pictures of the barges our gifts are stuck on. That's what's going to be our Christmas
that's another.
present.
I mean, my God, everywhere you turn, right? Can it get any worse, right? So you got 50 ships off the coast of, waiting to get in the L.A. port, and they're off the East Coast as well. They can't even get into the port because we don't have any workers there at the port, so we don't have the truckers to take the goods in.
All right, Congressman, solve all those problems if you have time, and certainly if you get the majority, if you can, and especially on the immigration.
We got to get back, and I appreciate it, Brian. Good talking to you.
Go get him. Congressman Michael McCall. He's trying to solve them the best he can. When we come back, your turn. 1-866-408-7669, The Brian Kilmeade Show.
Don't go anywhere. Brian Kilmeade will be right back.
Ashley Dvorkin with a Fox Movie Profile with Fandango's Eric Davis and a look at new releases streaming this week.
Welcome to the Blumhouse introduces the first installments of this horror anthology series.
In The Manor, Barbara Hershey stars as a woman who moves into a nursing home after having a stroke, and then she realizes that something supernatural is afoot. And then in Madres, we have a Mexican-American couple who are expecting their first child, and they relocate to a farming community in the 1970s in California. And then the wife begins to experience some really strange symptoms and terrifying visions.
And also on Amazon Prime, the documentary Justin Bieber, Our World.
This delves into Justin Bieber's life, and it documents his life leading up to what actually became his first full concert that he put on in 3 years, the New Year's Eve show of 2020, which was really the last time everything felt normal around the world.
Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Now, from the historical audio archives of Fox News Talk.
Although he was the Speaker of the House from 1971 to 1977, Democrat Carl Albert of Oklahoma served in Congress since 1947. In a 1990 interview, Albert gave his impression of President Harry Truman.
Harry Truman was the least educated president we had in my time, But he had certain qualities that made him an unusual president. He was the most fearless government official that I've ever known. I remember one time some of us went down to talk to him about what we would like to have brought up through the years, and when he got through, he said, well, boys, I'll tell you, look at all this stuff, but he had a globe on his desk, globe of the world. He says, the only thing I'm really interested in is protecting that little globe.
Stay tuned to hear more history as it unfolds before your ears. It's the audio archives of Fox News Talk.
She thought her life was in danger.
How one mystery became a mass grave.
We found another set of remains, a third set of remains, and a fourth set of remains.
Is there a serial killer on the loose?
The beautiful beaches of Long Island, New York have become the latest backdrop in a murder mystery.
Grim Tide, hunting the Long Island serial killer. There's 2 ways to solve the mystery. Listen to the podcast now on Fox News Podcasts and watch on Fox Nation. Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts commercial-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Dana Perino, Kennedy, Ben Domenech, The Duffys, and many more. Subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day. Featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
She thought her life was in danger.
How one mystery became a mass grave.
We found another set of remains, a third set of remains, and a fourth set of remains.
Is there a serial killer on the loose?
The beautiful beaches of Long Island, New York have become the latest backdrop in a murder mystery.
Grim Tide, hunting the Long Island serial killer. There's 2 ways to solve the mystery. Listen to the podcast now on Fox News Podcasts and watch on Fox Nation. Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts commercial-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Dana Perino, Kennedy, Ben Domenech, The Duffys, and many more. Subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day. Featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
Hey Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to.
But Riz, Emmett Golden here, and we've got some good news for you. You can stream all Browns network programming on the Browns official app, so download it from the App Store on your mobile device.
That's right, Emmett. It's Hammer here, and remember, the best place to stream all our local programming for free, Henry Browns analyst Tony Grossi, is at thelandondemand.com or the Land On Demand app.
Thanks, Hammer. It's Gerard Cherry with one last reminder. Download both apps, the Browns app and the Land On Demand, and you won't miss a minute of this exciting Browns season.
Hey Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to.
But Riz, Emmett Golden here, and we've got some good news for you. You can stream all Browns network programming on the Browns official app, so download it from the App Store on your mobile device.
That's right, Emmett. It's Hammer here, and remember, the best place to stream all our local programming for free, Henry Browns analyst Tony Grossi, is at thelandondemand.com or the Land On Demand app.
Thanks, Hammer. It's Gerard Cherry with one last reminder. Download both apps, the Browns app and the Land On Demand, and you won't miss a minute of this exciting Browns season.
Hey Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to.
But Riz, Emmett Golden here, and we've got some good news for you. You can stream all Browns network programming on the Browns official app, so download it from the App Store on your mobile device.
That's right, Emmett. It's Hammer here, and remember, the best place to stream all our local programming for free, Henry Browns analyst Tony Grossi, is at thelandondemand.com or the Land On Demand app.
Thanks, Hammer. It's Gerard Cherry with one last reminder. Download both apps, the Browns app and the Land On Demand, and you won't miss a minute of this exciting Browns season.
Hey, Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to.
But Riz, Emmett Golden here, and we've got some good news for you. You can stream all Browns network programming on the Browns official app, so download it from the App Store on your mobile device.
That's right, Emmett. It's Hammer here, and remember, the best place to stream all our local programming for free and read Browns analyst Tony Grossi is at thelandondemand.com or the Land On Demand app.
Thanks, Hammer. It's Gerard Cherry with one last reminder. Download both apps, the Browns app and the Land On Demand, and you won't miss a minute of this exciting Browns season.
Hey, Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to.
But Riz, Emmett Golden here, and we've got some good news for you. You can stream all Browns network programming on the Browns official app, so download it from the App Store on your mobile device.
That's right, Emmett. It's Hammer here, and remember, the best place to stream all our local programming for free and read Browns analyst Tony Grossi is at thelandondemand.com or the Land On Demand app.
Thanks, Hammer. It's Gerard Cherry with one last reminder. Download both apps, the Browns app and the Land On Demand, and you won't miss a minute of this exciting Browns season.
Hey, Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns game or broadcast you're trying to listen to.
You have too many events to promote.
Right, that's true. That's my fault. Tonight at 7, I'm going to finish up with 4 major stories, 4 of which are in this packet. I'm doing primetime tonight, so join me on Fox News Channel at 7 o'clock. Amongst our guests, Shelby Steele and Dan Crenshaw.
From the historical audio archives of Fox News Talk.
Baltimore Orioles shortstop Cal Ripken Jr., the Iron Man, broke the record for most consecutive games played, 2,131. The record had been held for 56 years, before that by Lou Gehrig.
Well, I see myself as someone that was very lucky and had a good career, and I think that I'm pretty good. I mean, I don't put myself all the way down and not think that I've had a pretty significant career. I've enjoyed being in the presence of all the great players, and this collection of players. I sat and talked to Henry Aaron a long time and really enjoyed talking to Kirk Gibson and Pete Rose. I just enjoy being in the environment. Maybe when I get older and you start to look back, you may have a historical view of your career, but right now I just see myself as a guy that was lucky enough to play baseball for a long time.
Stay tuned to hear more history as it unfolds before your ears. It's the audio archives of Fox News Talk.
This is Poll Parade with Fox News Director of Polling, Dana Blanton.
Voters typically look for certain characteristics in their president, like competence, compassion, strong leadership. It's been nearly a year since the election, so we checked in to see how President Biden is doing on these traits. Spoiler alert, views split. And like on job approval, he's lost some ground. The president's best rating is on empathy. When asked on our Fox News survey if he cares about people like you, voters say yes, by a 4-point margin. That's down from a 15-point margin last year. They think Biden is honest and trustworthy by a 2-point margin. That was 6 points. And by 1 point, they believe he has the mental soundness to serve. He was up by 4 points a year ago. His lowest marks are on being a strong leader. A majority now says no. He's in negative territory on this trait by 8 points. Last October, he was in positive territory by 4. I'm Dana Blanton, and that's your Poll Parade.
The very latest headlines, along with in-depth analysis and conversation, depend on Fox News Radio and FoxNewsPodcasts.com.
Discussing supply chain disruptions. I'm Joe Giro, Fox News. The G20 summit in Rome winding down with a supply chain meeting hosted by President Biden. The president said his administration is taking steps to address the issue, but he says the pandemic has taught a valuable lesson.
Ending the pandemic is the ultimate key to unlocking the disruptions we're all contending with. But we have to take action now, together with our partners in the private sector, to reduce the backlogs that we're facing. And then we have to prevent this from happening again.
President Biden travels to Scotland tomorrow for a climate crisis conference. Gas prices continue to rise, but Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm says prices are expected to go down soon.
The Energy Information Agency has said that projected, again, it's very volatile, but they've said that by the beginning of December, the prices should come down at the pump to $3.05. We'll see if that actually happens, but they are the best objective data that we have.
Granholm on NBC's Meet the Press. Critics blame the administration's energy policies. President Biden's social spending and the bipartisan infrastructure bill could be voted on in the House this week. Some wonder if they focus on the right priorities.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the bills address matters locally and globally.
Look at the need for action on climate before it's too late. You look at the need to support our economy for the long run.
Florida GOP Senator Rick Scott says the bills are lacking action on issues he says are of concern every day.
The border, parents' involvement in schools, our military support, there is nothing that they're talking about doing. There's nothing that Democrats are talking about doing that's solving a problem that Americans care about.
Both men on Fox News Sunday.
Fox's Gernal Scott. America is listening to Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz podcast. There is always someone doing something stupid somewhere. Dive deeper than the headlines and the party lines as I take on American life, politics, and entertainment. Join me, Jason Chaffetz, every Wednesday as I shed light on the news and make some predictions along the way. You never know who will drop in. Subscribe now on FoxNewsPodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
American Airlines is dealing with a massive number of flight cancellations. The airline today canceled more than 700 flights, or nearly 30% of its schedule for the day. The three-day total of canceled American Airlines flights is now about 1,600. The airline blames high winds that shut down Dallas-Fort Worth International at times, its busiest airport. It also says it has a shortage of flight attendants, but that 1,800 attendants will be returning from leave soon. In addition, American says it's hiring 600 more flight attendants by year's end and more pilots and reservations staff for the holidays. 3 people were dead after an Amtrak train collided with an SUV at a rail crossing in South Carolina. Fox's Chris DeMeo with more.
The North Charleston Fire Department says the 3 victims were occupants of the SUV. A 4th was injured. There's no word on that person's condition. No one was hurt on board the train, which had about 500 riders and was traveling from Virginia to Florida. It was delayed for several hours before resuming its trip. The cause of the crash is under investigation. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
The Atlanta Braves are within 1 victory of their first World Series crown since 1995. The Braves took a 3-1 lead after last night's 3-2 victory at home. Houston led 2-1 in the 7th until Dansby Swanson and pinch hitter Jorge Soler belted solo homers.
2-1 pitch. Driven in the air to left. Back at the wall. It is gone. Back to back. Braves take the lead. 3-2.
The Braves can clinch the title at home in Game 5 tonight. Exit polls show Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's ruling coalition will stay in power after Sunday's election, but it's still not clear if his Liberal Democratic Party will maintain its majority. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz.
The big crowds are back at Adventure Halloween for the moment, and staff say they hope to find a way to stay open under a new landlord. 91% of New York City municipal workers have received COVID-19 vaccinations as employees rush to meet the enforcement of the new mandate, which starts tomorrow. But progress hasn't been made in recent days among key agencies. About 1 in 5 sanitation workers missed Friday's deadline for the shots and remain unvaccinated. The tally didn't budge The same pattern applies to city firefighters, except they are 1 in 4. 1 in 4 are unvaccinated. And similar large gaps remain intact for EMS ambulance workers and the NYPD. Overall, about 12,000 first responders and about 2,100 sanitation workers face the prospect of unpaid leave starting tomorrow, hampering critical services citywide.
Hey, Cleveland, it's Tony Rizzo. Unfortunately, NFL contractual obligations prohibit us from streaming the Browns gamer broadcast you're trying to listen to.
But Riz, Emmett Golden here, and we've got some good news for you. You can stream all Browns network programming on the Browns official app, so download it from the App Store on your mobile device.
That's right, Emmett. It's Hammer here, and remember, the best place to stream all our local programming for free, Henry Browns analyst Tony Grossi, is at thelandondemand.com or the Land On Demand app.
Thanks, Hammer. Mr. Rod Cherry, one last reminder.
Choice stance or not, as the meeting for over an hour behind the scenes. I don't know what they could be talking about. Number 2, he's going to go ahead and meet with G20. He's going to meet with Francois Macron, who, understandably, we sold some nuclear subs without telling him, destroying his multi-billion-dollar deal with his private companies. He's a man of the UK as well. So he's been a disaster overseas as his president. And domestically, he does not have a bipartisan or reconciliation package yet to talk about. Will that get done? We'll find out. Let's get to the big 3.
Now, with the stories you need to know, it's Brian's Big 3.
Number 3.
It's a movement to stand up for Virginians, for parents, and to reject government control. And Terry McAuliffe has demonstrated that he cares more about his own career than he does for Virginians. This is our moment as Virginians to come together. We're winning the independent vote by double digits. We have Democrats walking across the aisle in droves.
Stunning reversal. The rookie Republican in the blue state of Virginia goes from long shot to leader in the Virginia governor's race. I'll ask Governor Chris Christie about that.
Number 2.
We've had a lot of our members that have been seriously ill and recovered and have the antibody levels. So that's just the service we've given to the citizens and residents of New York City. And the mayor hasn't given us any deference or even treated us the same as anybody else. We're being treated like numbers on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that is true. That's Jim McCarthy, the firefighters union president. Mandate mania to cost firefighters, cops, and city workers their jobs and their careers in New York and Chicago. This is all politically driven, an unnecessary battle. Has Mayor de Blasio thought of what is it going to be like without thousands of cops and firefighters and sanitation workers on their streets?
Number 1.
It's a framework that will create millions of jobs, grow the economy, invest in our nation and our people, turn the climate crisis into an opportunity and put us on a path not only to compete, but to win the economic competition. No one got everything they wanted, including me, but that's what compromise is.
Really? With your own party and you can't get it done. Not delivering. That's how I describe what the Dems have done to the reeling President Biden as he lands in Italy. He wanted a massive spending bill. He wanted 2 of them. Nancy Pelosi guaranteed 1 of them. He's got none of them. Joining me now, Governor Christie. Governor Christie, welcome back. How you feeling?
Feeling great, Brian. How are you?
I'm good, really good. First off, bring us right now to what happened yesterday as you understand it. The president wanted to close the deal. He wanted to close at least one of the 2 bills. What happened?
Look, he didn't get it done. I mean, it's that simple. And it's because he has not led in his own party, let alone led in the country. And you can't do this stuff based on these artificial timelines when you haven't brought people together. And so he had a fake announcement, yesterday morning that everything was done. They had a framework. And then when you go back and talk to the people who are actually going to have to vote on it, they haven't even seen a bill yet. They don't even know what he's talking about. So, it's theater. It's theater by Joe Biden, which has gone flat. If this were a Broadway show, it would be closed on the first night. This is just a bad show that he's putting on, not to mention the awful policy that is behind these things. So he went to Europe looking weak, which is not good for America, but it is the reality of the Biden presidency so far.
So one thing we have, it's 1,600 plus pages. My sense is they'll get something. I don't know what else they're going to do, but who knows? Expansion of health care coverage, that's Obamacare, $150 billion for affordable housing, earned income tax credit, child tax credit extension for another year, paying thousands per kid. Pell Grant expanding $100 billion for immigration. Well, that's interesting. Clean energy tax credits to the tune of $550 billion. Taxes on corporations, 15% threshold, but they won't raise the corporate tax rate. Free preschool for everybody in the country for 3- and 4-year-olds. What's out? Drug pricing competition, billionaires tax, paid family leave, the Clean Electricity Performance Program, free community college, and Medicare that includes dental and vision. So I worry about what the nuances in this bill are and what people in New Jersey and New York want. They want that SALT tax back. And people like Tom Suozzi, the congressman of Long Island, said, I won't vote for this, Democrat, unless that's gone. That's not even on the table that I could see.
I don't think it is on the table, and the rest of the country is not going to want to give that to states like California, New York, my own state of New Jersey, because our states spend out of control. And other parts of the country say, why should the taxpayers in the rest of the country pay for the excesses of state governments in these blue states? When spending has gone up 30% in New Jersey over the last 4 years under a Democratic governor, why should taxpayers in Nebraska have to pay for that? So I think they're going to have a tough pull on that, and I don't think it's going to make it. What you see here and what you should be concerned about is these programs that they're expanding and they're putting a 1-year sunset on to bring down the price of the bill to lower. Are Democrats really going to take away those things? And Republicans are going to have to be very clear about what they want to do in the 2022 election. Because I'll tell you, as a voter, I'm going to be listening to whether or not they're going to sunset some of this stuff. Because the big problem, Brian, and this is where we as the party failed on Obamacare, we promised to get rid of it, and when we were in complete control of the White House, the House, and the Senate, we didn't do it. And I will tell you, I think that we need to be able to speak strongly about this expansion. It's something that we will roll back if we take control again. Whether it's next year in the House and the Senate to force it to Biden's desk, or more importantly in 2024.
Talking to Governor Christie, obviously, we'll talk about Virginia in a second, but just so you know, if people listening to us right now say, well, I do agree with President Biden, those horrible rich people aren't paying enough. The Wall Street Journal took a look at what could be coming down the pike if this thing passes. If you look at the taxes right now, the top marginal personal tax income rate with the state tax, if you're in New York and California, you're paying 60%. So do you think that the people giving 6 out of every $10 they make aren't paying enough, which would be higher? It's higher than Europe. Welfare states that people always say we're on socialism in like Britain and Europe has. The UK pays 45%, Italy 47%, Germany 47%, France 55%. So you understand that our tax rate already is higher than Europe.
Look, Brian, take New Jersey as an example. The top 1% in New Jersey pays 44% of the income tax.
Amazing.
In the state.
Yeah.
So this idea, this myth that people who have been successful are not paying enough in taxes is a myth. And it's a myth that the Democrats love to play, love to have class warfare, because there are more people making less than there are making more. And so it's all about a cynical way to try to get more votes. We have to be out there telling people what the truth is, where I think most people would reasonably believe that in New Jersey, if the top 1% are already paying 44% of the income tax, that certainly constitutes more than fair share.
I would think so. So let's talk about the New Jersey race. The latest Fox poll has Cettarelli trailing, I think, by 6 points. What do you think? Do you think the Republican still has a shot against the sitting Governor Murphy?
Yeah, I think he does because of this. Think about this comparison. In 2009, when I beat John Corzine, Barack Obama's approval rating in New Jersey was plus 21. He was 21 points more favorable than less favorable in this state. In the latest Fox poll, Joe Biden is 6 points underwater in New Jersey at 43%. So what I think is going to happen here is the national mood is infecting what's happening in both New Jersey and Virginia. It's helping both Jack Ciattarelli and Glenn Youngkin. And I think there's enough anti-Biden, anti-Democrat momentum, even in a blue state like New Jersey and a purple state like Virginia, to give both Glenn and Jack very good chances of pulling this off next Tuesday.
What was your polling going into the first race with Corzine? What was your polling? Were you ahead?
We were essentially within the margin of error. There were a number of public polls out there. The Monmouth poll, for instance, had us losing by 3 points going into Election Day. But then you had the PPP poll that had us up by 2 points. We wound up winning by 4.5 points. So there was a 7-point difference between what Monmouth said was going to happen and what actually happened with us on Election Day. So these polls are very variable. It's getting tougher to poll, as we all know, with the advent of cell phones and whether people really want to talk to pollsters anymore. I say look at the macro environment. And the macro environment here, Brian, is very negative for Democrats. And I can guarantee you that Terry McAuliffe and Governor Phil Murphy are very nervous today and will be nervous until these votes come in on Tuesday night.
So looking to close, Murphy brings in the big guns. I want to get your impression of the person he called and what he said. Cut 21.
Right now in America, we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid benefits.
That was Bernie Sanders. Does Governor Murphy think that Bernie Sanders resonates with the type of people that will put him over the top and lock in a second victory? Do you know New Jersey?
No, look, what Governor Murphy is doing is Governor Murphy's running for president, okay? Believe it or not, Phil Murphy is running for president, and he needs to have the support of the acolytes of Bernie Sanders because he's a guy who said he was going to make New Jersey the California of the East. He is playing completely to the AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, far left wing. And that's what he's planning to do. And anybody who tells you anything differently is not telling you the truth.
Oh, wow. That's I never thought of him as presidential timber. I did appreciate the fact that he was not falling in line with all the anti-Trumpers during the whole pandemic. But what he has done in New Jersey, I'm really surprised that he thinks he's got presidential hope. But on the left, I actually don't know who they have. I mean, Governor Newsom for the longest time seemed to be the man, but obviously I think that it's pretty clear that he's an empty suit, and he's lucky to even have that job and see what he's done since the recall. But I want to bring people at home up to date on what's happening in in Virginia, because now you have Terry McAuliffe in the latest poll, Virginia parents, likely voters, 56-42 in favor of Youngkin. For a choice for governor, if voting now among likely voters, Youngkin up 53-45. It's a rapid reversal. For those Virginia registered voters, it's Youngkin by 1. He was trailing by 8. What's happening in Virginia? Have you seen anything like this? I know it's just one poll, but have you seen anything like this? They were dead heat in 4 straight polls, and now this. Go inside the numbers, Chris.
Look, my guess is that what the Fox News poll is showing is the trend. I think that 8 points is too high for Youngkin, but I would not be surprised that Youngkin is up by a couple of points at this point. And it's showing, I think what the poll is showing is the trend towards Youngkin. And that trend has been going on ever since that debate where Terry McAuliffe said parents shouldn't be involved in deciding what their children are learning. And that cuts across party lines, Brian. Democrat parents don't want to hear that. Independent parents sure don't want to hear it. And Republican parents are outraged by it. You know, Terry McAuliffe did something that Glenn Youngkin up to that point was unable to accomplish. He united people across all parties on an issue. And that issue is parents not only have a right to be involved in what their children are learning, in my view and in the view of most people, they have an obligation to be involved in what their children are learning. And I think this trend has been going since that time. I do think at that point Glenn probably was down by 8 or 9 points. And now we're going to see if on Tuesday night he can close the gap and go ahead. I think he is ahead, and I think he is going to win on Tuesday night.
So here's what Mark Penn said, a longtime Clinton pollster, cut 18.
I myself was puzzled in the last week or so where McAuliffe brought in Biden and Harris, and he knows that the Democrat numbers
Stacey Abrams,
nationally
Obama.
tank. So Yeah, I mean, McAuliffe should have made it a local race about local issues and his performance, and instead he nationalized it. So I did think he made a major mistake in the last 2 weeks.
And McAuliffe is an operative. I mean, I didn't even know he'd ever be a candidate, let alone he was governor for 4 years. But he's always worked behind the scenes. He ran the DNC. So what about nationalizing an election in Virginia? What were they thinking?
Well, I think Terry McAuliffe got nervous, and he went back to what he knows, which is his prominent, wealthy, influential, big Democrat friends, like the people that were just mentioned: Obama, Biden, Harris, Stacey Abrams, right? These are folks who national Democrats like Terry McAuliffe think are great. Democrats in Virginia, not so much. And look, this is the great contrast, and I think if Youngkin wins, it's a great lesson. Youngkin has not nationalized his race. Youngkin has not had President Trump in. Youngkin has not had big national Republicans in. Glenn Youngkin has made this a race about Glenn Youngkin and about the people of Virginia. And I did exactly the same thing in 2009. When I ran against John Corzine, the only Republican I had in who you could consider a national Republican, but he was really a regional hero, was Rudy Giuliani. He was the only person that I invited in to campaign for me in 2009 that wasn't related to New Jersey. And when you're mayor of New York City, it's like you're a part of New Jersey. And so, you know, I think this is the right path for a challenger to take. I think Youngkin did a great job by not inviting in any national Republicans to do that kind of thing. And I think McAuliffe, when he loses Tuesday night, is going to look back on that decision as an enormous mistake and the second turning point of the race. But the first one was that debate comment when he said parents should not be involved in what their children are learning.
Governor, you really brought your A game. I don't know how much I'm paying you, but I'm going to double it.
Excellent.
All right. Governor Chris Christie, thanks so much.
Hey, Brian, always great to be on. Everybody have a great weekend.
You too. Back in a moment.
Coming to you on a need-to-know basis because, man, do you need to know. You're with Brian Kilmeade.
Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The Voices America trusts. Download it now. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist, and I'm inviting you to join a new conversation with the smartest thinkers out there about the country and where we're going. It's the Ben Domenech Podcast. You can subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, FoxNewsPodcast.com, or wherever you download your podcasts. This new show will feature deep dive interviews with newsmakers and some of your favorite Fox News analysts. I hope you'll join me. Subscribe to the Ben Domenech Podcast.
Subscribe and listen now by going to FoxNewsPodcasts.com.
Now, from the historical audio archives of Fox News Talk.
On March 5th, 1946, Sir Winston Churchill gave his famous Iron Curtain speech at Westminster College in Missouri. The speech was deemed by many to mark the onset of the Cold War.
From Sicily in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. Behind that line lie all the capitals of the ancient states of Central and Eastern Europe. All these famous cities and the populations around them lie in what I must call the Soviet sphere. And all are subject, in one form or another, not only to Soviet influence, but to a very high and in some cases increasing measure of control from Moscow. This is certainly not the liberated Europe we fought to build up.
Stay tuned to hear more history as it unfolds before your ears. It's the audio archives of Fox News Talk.
She thought her life was in danger.
How one mystery became a mass grave.
We found another set of remains, a third set of remains, and a fourth set of remains.
Is there a serial killer on the loose?
The beautiful beaches of Long Island, New York have become the latest backdrop in a murder mystery.
Grim Tide, hunting the Long Island serial killer. There's 2 ways to solve the mystery. Listen to the podcast now on Fox News Podcasts and watch on Fox Nation. Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts commercial-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Dana Perino, Kennedy, Ben Domenech, The Duffys, and many more. Subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
U.S. Marines who helped a stranded motorist makes today's Dean's List. Virginia Waller-Torres was stuck in her car outside of Arlington National Cemetery during a flash flood event when a bus pulled over and 6 Marines jumped out to help. She recorded the video of the rescue and posted it to social media. You can hear her say in the background, "Marine power, the most American thing ever." Corporal Mitchell Witowitz was one of the Marines who jumped in to help and says if there's anybody that will save the day, it's them. Virginia says the rescue affected her emotionally because her grandfather, who was buried at Arlington, was a World War II veteran, and her father served with the Navy during the Persian Gulf War. She says it was something so different, something I can't explain in words. I'm so grateful. The Marines who helped remain humble and say that lending a hand was the right thing to do. And they say if people can reciprocate that, I think our country is headed in a good direction. Thank you to the Marines who helped rescue Virginia. You are what make this country great. Janice Dean, Fox News.
This is House Call for Health. The American Psychological Association recently releasing its 2021 Work and Well-Being Survey, and it shows that more than a year into the pandemic, American workers report compounding pressure, and that's impacting their stress levels, their ability to do their jobs, and whether they'll look for a new job in the coming year. The survey showed those who felt tense or stressed out during work were more than 3 times likely to look for another job. Other job-related stressors, compensation and lack of involvement in decision-making, too heavy of a workload, lack of paid time off or sick leave, and commuting, mentioned by half of employees in the survey. And nearly 3 in 5 employees experienced negative impacts of work-related stress, like a lack of interest, motivation, or energy, difficulty focusing, and a lack of effort at work. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
The fastest 3 hours in radio. You're with Brian Kilmeade.
The American heroes that were hung in there during the pandemic every single day while we watched them on television, go to the hospital every day, pick people up, haul them to the hospitals, get into their homes, get sick, and they're the first people that we're going to throw under the bus. You know, on the supply chain issue, it's even more insane because the American Trucking Association said just today that if the vaccine mandate is put into place, 37% of every trucker in America is going to be gone.
And so what he's talking about is the vaccine mandate in these cities with Mayor de Blasio, these liberal mayors like Lori Lightfoot in Seattle, in Portland. They're just putting in these vaccine mandates, so they're losing cops and firefighters. Maybe that's the goal. Sanitation workers, is that the goal, really? And if you have a contract with the federal government, you're going to be susceptible. For example, Citibank, they have sent out notice that all their employees got to get vaccinated or they're not allowed to be in work, and then therefore, henceforth, not be employed. So is this the hammer that the American people are going to respond to? While the cases and deaths and hospitalizations go through the floor. Thankfully, we're on the other side of this. And if a variant rolls in, it'll be another challenge and another mandate. Then we'll get the flu shot. And then we're going to be forced to wrap our ankles because of potholes. Or else.
Fox News Radio. On air, online, on demand. The latest news, your favorite talk show hosts, the hottest podcasts. All in one place. America is listening to Fox News. Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts ad-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Trey Gowdy, the Fox News Rundown, Will Kane, Brian Kilmeade, and so much more. Go to foxnewspodcasts.com for all the details. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
Fox News, I'm Kathleen Maloney. Although President Biden blames the pandemic for supply chain disruptions, he tells world leaders at the G20 summit
The best way to reduce current delays and build in greater resilience for the future is to work together across the entire supply chain, from raw materials to warehousing and distribution.
The president heads to Scotland tomorrow for a conference on the global climate crisis. A popular celebration in Spain is suspended after a man lost his life.
That 55-year-old man bled to death after being gored in the leg by a bull during a festival in eastern Spain in which the animals are released onto local streets.
Fox's Paul Stevens. It's the first known death since Running of the Bulls events resumed after being paused by the pandemic. America is listening to Fox News.
New from the Fox News Podcasts Network, Dana Perino, co-host of the 5 and America's Newsroom on Fox News Channel, returns to the world of audio with a new limited-time podcast, Everything Will Be Okay with Dana Perino. Building off the success of her best-selling book of the same name, Dana provides an unequaled brand of advice built on real-life experience and interviews experts and individuals that make a difference in the lives of others. Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Fox News Talk.
Headline Rewind.
1981. President Jimmy Carter.
We have now reached an agreement with Iran which will result in the freedom of our American hostages.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
As of now, I am in control here in the White House, pending return of the Vice President.
I have been in labor negotiations for 25 years. The only people that ever win from a strike are the lawyers.
Charles Philip Arthur George, wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife, so long as you both shall live?
I will. MTV is just videos with music.
As a judge, it is not my function to continue to try to develop public policy by means of making the law.
News as it happened then, news as it happens now.
This is Fox News Talk.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
Strangers giving back to a World War II veteran and a surprise birthday party makes today's Dean's List. Corey A. Shue turned 100 years old, and an organization called Carolina Cruisin' for Jeeps wanted to help celebrate. Their focus is to give back to the community to help veterans, active military, and police officers. One way the organization does so is by hosting neighborhood cruises with police escorts. 49 vehicles drove by Mr. Shue, who sat in his backyard surrounded by 100 flags, a big birthday banner, and friends and family, as well as veterans. People waved, honked horns, and raised military flags in his honor. Many of the police officers and veterans in the parade stopped, got off their bikes, and saluted Mr. Shue before continuing their route. Mr. Shue's granddaughter, Taylor, is also a member of the organization and had been planning this surprise for some time. Mr. Shue, happy birthday. You deserve to be celebrated on the Dean's List. Janice Dean, Fox News.
I'm Ashley DeBorkin with a Fox Celebrity Profile with Penn Badgley and Victoria Pedretti of the hit Netflix thriller You, which returns October 15th with a new season set in the suburbs.
I think being in like marriage and parenthood, they both have the responsibility to take care of others more. You know, just it's thrust on them more. I mean, ideally in a relationship, you are taking, you know, your significant other into consideration, but you're not fully thrust into it the same way when you like have a family.
While we know murder, obsession, and secrecy will follow, watching the killer couple in suburbia also has its moments.
I loved when they, I guess this isn't much of a spoiler, they show up to a birthday party really early.
And 3 seasons in, Badgley shares his way of escaping the intensity of revisiting Joe.
2 tools that I use all the time, like in my trailer and when I'm at home, and prayer and meditation is really invaluable with a very invisible task like acting and inhabiting someone like Joe.
Ashley DeBorkin, Fox News.
is getting you talking. You're with Brian Kilmeade.
Well, I don't think we've ever seen the federal government be this heavy-handed with vaccination mandates before. And so this is definitely uncharted waters. What they're doing with federal contractors, they have thousands and thousands of employees who've been working throughout this entire pandemic in the state of Florida. Now, all of a sudden, they're basically being put to either lose your job or do the shot. And some of them have made the decision that that's something that they don't want to do.
That is Governor DeSantis going the exact opposite way of just about every blue state, and certainly the White House, when it comes to the vax mandates. The numbers are extremely high in Florida, not for cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, but for vaccinations. But he's not firing people for not wearing a mask. He's not firing people, like today in New York and Chicago, for not having a vaccine. He is educating them, letting them make their own decisions, and adjusting accordingly. That is the state in which Shannon Bream was reared. She is a Fox News legal analyst. She hosts Fox News at night. She's the author of The Women of the Bible. Shannon, are you proud of your governor allowing freedom to reign free?
Listen, I am a 7th-generation Floridian, and we are an independent people.
You go back to Ponce de Leon? Is it 7th? Is it possible?
We discovered the springs there. Yeah, my family goes way back. And think about this. That last gubernatorial election there was so close. I mean, it was like in the thousands of votes for DeSantis. So Florida could be a totally different scenario at this point. And some people might like that. There are those who feel like, DeSantis is way too open with the way the state has operated and the decisions he's made. But there are plenty of people there and plenty of people moving there. I think the New York Times a few months ago had a piece about how realtors are literally just cold calling, knocking on people's doors saying, what would it take for you to sell your house? Like, just name your price. Because there are a lot of people who are drawn to that level of freedom and autonomy to say, yeah, for most people, they may say, the vaccine is for me. This is, makes sense. I'm doing it. But if you want to have a different scenario for your kids where they can go to school with or without masks, you want to be able to make some of your own decisions. Florida is a place for you.
But just think about this, Shannon, with all the challenges that are out of our control, we're on the other side of this pandemic until another variant, which is not out there, thankfully, comes by and challenges us differently. There's no reason for my way or the highway type mandate. Listen to what's happening in the state. Are you still in New York?
I am.
All right. So in the state, in the city you're in the state you're in, today's the deadline for sanitation workers, cops, firefighters, and all city personnel. Here's Jim McCarthy, FDNY president.
To respond in March of 2020, we did the same thing. We pulled everybody from their offline assignments, put them back into the firehouse, and we responded to all of those calls. When everybody was home, working from home, and all the businesses were closed, every firefighter and fire officer was in the firehouse responding to emergencies, COVID, and being exposed to COVID. And then some of them got very seriously ill. Some of them came back and exposed their families to COVID. So we've had a lot of our members that have been seriously ill and recovered and have the antibody levels. So that's the service we've given to the citizens and residents of New York City, and the mayor hasn't given us any deference or even treated us the same as anybody else. We're being treated like numbers on a spreadsheet rather than workers.
It is a joke, and I don't think people fully understand. I don't understand where the outrage with the teachers are because so many decided not to get vaccinated. I think the teachers union, for some reason, is on the same side as the mandate. I think, like the police chief, I'm not sure if they're compromised to a degree, but the FDNY has 68% vaccination rate, NYPD 80%, sanitation 67%, corrections 53%. So congratulations, New York. You're further depleted in areas in which you can least afford it.
Yeah, it's frightening, actually. And, people around here are starting to point to the trash on the streets and say, like, okay, is that going to get picked up? That's a nuisance and an eyesore, but it is the lack of an ambulance being able to show up or an officer on the scene of a crime. I mean, those are very real things. Our buddy Jason Rance, who's on all the time and reports out of the Northwest, is talking about how this is playing out in real time in Seattle. He said that the records show for the entire month of November, they're short-staffed. Every single day, they're asking for people to volunteer to come in and take patrol shifts. And the problem is that means detectives and people who would be out actually investigating investigating and trying to solve crimes and put people away are now having to respond to 911 calls, so they're not able to solve crime, get people off the streets. Plus, there's enormous burnout, which you got to imagine is going to happen here when you're calling people in for 24-hour shifts and overtime, which is super expensive, and a grind on these men and women who have, as you pointed out, been the ones showing up all during COVID, taking the risk before there was a vaccine. These people have been worked to the bone over the last 20 months, and we have been saluting and cheering them until this moment. And I think there just has to be some nuance in this conversation. I don't think you can say, listen, if you've got natural immunity, and you can show it through your antibodies or through test results or whatever you've got, that you got that because you were showing up for work, and now we're going to punish you and not even give you credit for that. It's just very heavy-handed. I think the administration at some point is going to have to say, all right, let's have a conversation about natural immunity.
Yes. Now, the other area of expertise is Virginia. Why would that be?
Well, because I was Miss Virginia.
Thank you. Which, do you ever lose that title? What kind of power do you get with that?
Yeah, it's 1 year, and then they kick you to the curb. It's on to the new girl.
Well, to me, you're still in power.
I'm still ruling over the Commonwealth.
Yes.
I'm guessing it's because you think I'm more qualified, because I live there and I actually have been covering this for a long time. Katie Pavlich and I both live in Northern Virginia, which is very, very liberal. For the most part, there are a mix of conservatives here and there, but it's very much the D.C. vibe. And she and I were talking about how we're out running with our dogs and stuff, and I've been surprised to see as many Youngkin signs as I have. The Republican who's running. It's a bold statement in my neighborhood to put a Youngkin sign out. It's sort of like putting out your Trump sign. So I've been surprised that so many of my neighbors have boldly covered their yards in these signs. It shows me that there's got to be a close race there. If people in my, somewhat left-leaning neighborhood are willing to do that.
How about this? You have a Fox poll, which has the choice for governor voting right now for likely voters. Youngkin, 53. McAuliffe, 45. It was 51-46 McAuliffe just a month ago. Now, Fox News poll on to trust to do better on the job. Youngkin beats McAuliffe by 1 on the coronavirus. Education, he beats McAuliffe by 6. On the economy, he beats him by 9. On crime, he beats him by 12. Now, listen, this is just a poll, but the last 4 polls had him in a virtual dead heat. Shannon, I'm not sure if you're working Election Day. You usually do, but this is getting very interesting. Am I wrong to think this tells a bigger story than the Virginia story? If, of course, Youngkin is either within a whisker of winning or actually wins?
I do, and because, listen, the McAuliffe people have acknowledged that, they kind of didn't want to be tied to the Biden administration right now because it is struggling so much with Afghanistan, with the supply chain, with the economy, with all kinds of things, the gridlock in Washington. But this education issue has blown up to be a huge thing in Virginia, with McAuliffe saying, I don't think parents should be calling the shots. That was a statement that since then it seems like that is what it really impacted the trajectory, that the Youngkin folks were able to jump on that and say, okay, parents, if you're mad about curriculum and what's happening with your kids, this sexual assault that happened in a Loudoun County, allegedly more than one Loudoun County school, that kind of stuff really ticked off parents regardless of party. But you got to remember, there's been early voting in Virginia like there is everywhere now. So that's been going on for a while. So whether those votes, were locked in before some of the recent momentum change, whether that's a problem for Youngkin, we'll find out on Tuesday or sometime next week when the stuff finally gets counted.
Here's Mark Penn, cut 18.